We know that when the Founding Fathers cast their brilliant minds and their courageous hearts on the free nation they envisioned in America, they were breaking free from a very powerful nation, England. But the founders also knew that their new republic had to have legislators, people to make laws to govern. But let's think for a moment about what the young nation was rebelling against. It was the British Crown, which was taking more and more of their money and more of their freedoms. It was taxing stamps and their tea and seizing their weapons and even their homes. The colonists turned to open revolt because they felt they had no other choice. There was no other way to fight against a huge and increasingly powerful government thousands of miles away. So, you have to know that the last thing these rebels envisioned for their own independent nation was another form of government that would be entirely out of touch with their day-to-day lives. They envisioned anything but a legislative body made up of people who would make a career out of politics. They knew that would only lead to a different type of tyranny and corruption. The founders wanted a truly representative legislative body, but, that's why they used the term House of Representatives. But representative of what? Well, they were clear about that. They really were. They envisioned citizen legislators, actually people like you and me, who would spend most of their years building families and businesses and actively participating in their communities. Then, later in life, they'd set aside their commitments to put their real-life experience to work serving the nation for a limited amount of time before returning to their real lives or their day jobs, so to speak. And the purpose was not to lift themselves up, but to serve their fellow citizens. So, how are we doing with that? Well, I think you would find it startling to know just how much career politicians dominate the Congress these days. Let's talk about the most radical congressional realignment in modern times. It occurred in 1994 when Republicans took control of the House for the first time in 40 years. That year, 34 incumbents were defeated. 34. That means that even in a truly historic election, 92% of incumbents were still reelected. 92%. And in a typical election year, that number is close to 97, 98%. This system is rigged by incumbents for incumbents, and both parties are equally responsible for this. Think about this. Even the term limits movement of the 80s and 90s was led by a guy, Phil Crane, who served 36 years in the House before being voted out of office. This is reminiscent of the parents saying to their children, "Do as I say and not as I do." So incumbents have always made things easy on themselves, and they've had to because they're so unpopular. But you can do something about this. Educate yourself on how long your member of Congress has been in office and what he or she has voted for and against. And instead of just automatically pulling the lever, look into whether there might be an alternative on the ballot, someone who may come closer to the type of citizen legislator we once had and whom the founders envisioned. In part 2 of A Call to Citizens, we'll discuss just how unpopular the Congress really is and what we can do to limit their longevity, and how we are just one generation away from either a Congress that runs us over a cliff or a responsive Congress with more citizen legislators and limits on how long they can serve.